All right, so on this channel, we talk a lot about fascism, and both the Democrats and the Republicans use the word to mean different things. The Republicans will accuse the Democrats of being fascist. The Democrats will accuse the Republicans of being fascist. Who's right? Well, let's look at the word, let's look at its origins, and let's talk about what it means. And hopefully we can unite and fight fascism in this country. All right, so I'm out at the Thinking Rock, and let's talk about fascism. So what is fascism? Fascism is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and what it means depends on who is saying it. When I use the word fascism, I think of the height of fascism in Nazi Germany in 1944. I think of an evil that had taken over in the minds of people of Germany that led to millions of deaths around the world. This evil is the greatest evil on this earth. When I think fascism, I think rampant nationalism, militarism, war, death, decay, and the Holocaust. But this is not what the Republicans mean by fascism. For them, fascism is big government control of the private sector. It's telling people what they can say and what they can do, political correctness. It's putting pressure on corporations to moderate free speech and moderate content online. So as you can see, the word has become a mirror word in American politics. Each side sees it reflected in the other's behavior. And this is bad because it means that we are both pointing fingers and making accusations without solving the real problem. It's another example of how words have lost their meaning and finding common ground is impossible. But God willing, I'm going to try to clear this up. I am anti-fascism, and when I'm done, I hope you will be too. Let's talk about where it began. Fascism originated in Italy in the 1920s under Mussolini. In the Doctrine of Fascism in 1932, co-written by Mussolini and philosopher Giovanni Gentile, he said, "Fascism denies that the majority can direct human society. It affirms the immutable, beneficial inequality of mankind." So the inequality of mankind was fundamental to his idea of fascism. Sounds like a nice guy, right? No wonder Hitler was a fan. Well, like so many dark periods of human history, there's a story behind this. And as you hear this story, note the parallels to our current times. So Mussolini began as a socialist journalist working on the left. But during World War I, and after the soldiers began returning home from war, he switched sides and joined the right and embraced fierce nationalism. There was a lot going on at the time, but in general, Italy had sided with the Allies in the war, but then was given very little in terms of reparations, and immediately began to face really hard economic times after the war. The socialists on the left were actively trying to pattern themselves after Soviets in Russia. And a bunch of disgruntled veterans, nationalists, and anti-communists organized on the right called the Fasci di Combattimento. Please pardon my Italian, it's not good. In his group, he organized the Black Shirts, or the Squadristi. They used violence to crush strikes, attack socialist offices, and intimidate opponents, often with tacit support of police and elites. Sound familiar? Then in 1922, he marched on Rome and threatened the seat of government with civil war. The king at the time offered Mussolini a job, and Mussolini became prime minister of Italy. Slightly reminiscent of our January 6th. Then, little by little, liberal democracy was replaced with dictatorship. First, the press was censored. Then they outlawed opposing political parties and turned Italy into a single-party government. Then they unleashed the secret police on the people to arrest dissenters and squash protests. Again, does this sound familiar? The final step was making Mussolini Il Duce, or the leader. All corporations were made part of the state, And then, eager to return to the glory of ancient Rome, Mussolini joins Hitler in the Second World War on the side of the Axis. And the rest is history. Somewhere between 70 and 85 million people died. Let that sink in. 70 to 85 million people. All right. Well, what did our founders think? Almost 150 years before all of this, our founders argued that an opposite approach would be better. James Madison wrote in the Federalist Papers in 1787 that he believed diversity was the key to a healthy democracy. For Madison, looking at the rise and fall of nations throughout history, there was a common weakness that showed up whenever too much power was centralized within a single group. And it's pretty easy to understand. Once you've been declared the winner, you don't have to try hard anymore. You can rest on your laurels and decay begins. To Madison, it was important to have many factions competing for control because then you never had the luxury of complacency. On this point, he said, "Liberty is to faction what air is to fire, an ailment without which it instantly expires." He understood that kings are bad and that a single-party system would be bad. He wanted a competition of ideas and values. Mussolini disagreed. How did that pan out for Mussolini? Where would Charlie Kirk be on this issue? I challenge you to go watch his videos and comment below. Where would Fox News be on this issue? Go watch Fox News and share what you are seeing. See if you see a theme. See if you see any commonality. So in a nutshell, our founders were right. The competition of ideas and values that we see in this country has resulted in one of the strongest growing economies in the world. We've become a nation that opens its doors to the best and brightest around the world. And as a result, we've seen the technological advancement that is unparalleled anywhere, for now. But all of this is under attack by simple-minded fools that have fallen into the same trap that Mussolini fell into. What is that? Well, it's nationalism, racism, ego, ambition, hatred, evil. Didn't work out too well for the fascists, I'll tell you that. The American system was built on the idea of pluralism. Pluralism is the belief that freedom requires multiple centers of power, dissent, and diversity of thought. This is what we are fighting for. This is a fight to preserve the many voices against those that just want one voice. Okay, let's do a quick comparison of fascism versus pluralism. We'll take a look at Mussolini's fascism and compare that to Madison's pluralism. And you tell me which one you'd prefer to live under. So in Mussolini's fascism, the first principle that we'll talk about is anti-pluralist. And that rejects democracy, political parties, and free press. Only one national will should exist under fascism. Another principle is state supremacy. The individual exists to serve the state, not the other way around. Another principle of fascism is authoritarian unity. Mussolini believes that disorder and debate weaken a nation. Unity under a strong leader creates strength. Another principle is nationalism and myth. It glorifies the nation as a living organism with a historical destiny. Another principle is militarism and struggle. It views war and struggle as noble and necessary for renewal. You can see some of these themes being played out in our country today. Let's take a look at Madison's pluralism. So the first principle is pluralism. A healthy democracy has many competing interests, religions, and viewpoints. This diversity prevents tyranny. Another principle is checks and balances. Power must be divided among branches of government so no one person or group can control the state. Another principle is federalism. Power divided between national and state governments prevents centralization. Furthermore, rule of law. Leaders are bound by law. The state serves the people, not the other way around. Another principle is human nature. Since humans are ambitious and self-interested, Only by pitting ambition against ambition can liberty be preserved. Now, pop quiz. Given everything that I've explained above, would you rather live under a fascist regime or a pluralistic democracy? Enter your vote in the comments below, and I will tally all those votes and give you an update in a week or two with the results. All right. Well, I hope that with this new understanding of fascism, you can see how truly terrifying things are in our country today. Every time fascism has raised its evil head in world history, it's literally the darkest times with the most death and destruction that has ever been seen on this earth, literally. And when you see billionaires giving speeches and talking about tech companies essentially becoming small nations ruling over the masses, you realize that there are a lot of elites in this country that agree with Mussolini. And they have the power and the money to make all of that happen here in our country. This is not just hypothetical anymore. This is very real, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. The rich and powerful have too much power in this country today. Everything that Madison fought for and handed down to us and our children is at risk right now. Fox News is blatantly anti-pluralism 24/7, 365 days a year. And so my question to you is this. Any of you out there got $1 billion? Okay? No? Okay. Then what the hell are we going to do to fight this? Well, I have one answer for you. #Purple Revolution. If we unite, if we are willing to fight to preserve our democracy, we win. If we are divided, if we chicken out, if we find reasons to hate one another, they win. I have one last thing to say to everyone out there. Power to the people.